I think it was. I think one it was very challenging because I've been very close to artists since maybe from the mid '80s. So having known them and also art practice and how unpredictable it is, and perhaps that's the beauty of it. So the challenge was whether a place like this, one is that it has to be, it has to grab attention from the outside, but also it has to dilute itself to give up any kind of transformation, give it itself up to any kind of transformation which can take place as the artists can appropriate, you know. So that's how I see it. That's why the building doesn't try to inhibit any kind of occupation once you come in. It only makes a kind of a grand appearance of a plinth where people are gathering, and so it's more transparent at the lower level and it's absolutely opaque at the upper level, which is a kind of a metaphor for I mean, the earliest museums being, let's say, collections or of conquests which were being shown in museums outside, which largely would be the colonizers who would show it in their own home country, or the kings here would have collections. So this is like a binary which has to behave differently on the outside and differently on the inside, where it has to underplay and overplay. So I think that's an interesting kind of situation which you're trying to balance. And as art will appropriate this place, I'm assuming that a lot of places will change, especially places like even having an office may not be, it might become a gallery, the terrace might be appropriated. Also, I do not see this as a self-contained or a singular representation of MAP. In my understanding, as Abhishek's vision perhaps is, that this is only a kind of a beginning point which then starts appearing across the city and different parts of the world. And I think that can be very wonderful, and that then explodes the whole box, and I think that would be really wonderful.
Thank you. And Manuel, you were saying something about the arrangement of spaces here.
Yes. Sorry, I'm going back to the question. Eternity is a very long time, if I may. And no, beyond the let's say the joke, of course the museums are places where artifacts, artworks, or just narrative are kept and proposed to the public. And you need to have the longevity, so this is all the conservation process. But if you are lost in a long time, you are organizing a mausoleum instead of a museum. And I think it's very important to make them places of life, of exchange, of I love the English word serendipity. You know, meeting. We don't have that in French, but something which this kind of finding without looking and so on. I like indeed. Thank you, Maria. I like the way that you have structured the space here. Every floor works with this distribution in an arc. And there is a center node also. You are organizing statistical encounters just by the process of having people using the place. And I think this is a very dynamic, and this is where the present is very important, because this is where people will use the building and will discover. You will bump into the library. You will bump into the research. See the restoration lab and so on, working. So all of this will give a life. So if you want to be transformative, and I think this is a vision of Abhishek Poder and Kamini for the what MAP will signify for Bangalore and for India and for the world, the experience has to start within this place. This is from here that you will get the traction, and you will get, and also coming from Louvre Abu Dhabi, where we have a semi-permanent collection with evolution, rotation. I like this flexibility that you have, which is another way of being alive, without losing the long-term preservation, but the capacity of adapting makes it possible to test, to change, to propose new things. I know that the Tate, you're doing that also a lot when you revisit your own way of exhibiting, and this is how you're live, because you're also sensitive to the reaction of the audience and so on. So all of this together, I think it's a very good start. The tool is serving the purpose from my point of view. Maria.
And I suppose what I would want to add is that, of course, this is a museum of now. It is made now, and it's defined by many of the preoccupations and ideas of now, and that's a very good thing. So very people-focused, very much about equitable sharing of knowledge. That reflects recent debates in museums about how we wish our institutions to be. And I lead one where I have a mixture of institutional buildings that represent some different moments in history. So the original Tate, there was only one when I was growing up, was firmly of the 19th century. And you go up a very high flight of stairs to enter the elevated museum. It absolutely reflected the thinking of its time, and it states its power fairly plainly, because art was for the elite and of the elite, really, in those times. Tate Modern, on the other hand, is born at the beginning of the 21st century, and its architects, Herzog and de Meuron, described the Turbine Hall as a covered street. They were thinking of a much more democratic gathering of the public, who would then circulate around the repurposed industrial building and encounter art. But the truth is, both of those museums and both of those spaces continue to evolve. So at the moment in Tate Britain, the Devine galleries, which are the grandest of the spaces, are filled to the brim with Hugh Locke's Procession, which explores the history that helped create the collection that Tate holds and the wealth of Britain and all of the complicated and very difficult relationships with Britain's colonies and with the history of empire. And it's exuberant, and it spills out, and it disobeys the forms of architectural control that structure the space. So it may be of the 19th century, but that artist has made that space of now. And the people that come in engage and respond to that with joy and with critique and with engagement. So our spaces are defined by the times in which they're made, but they're redefined as successive generations repurpose them to their need. And I think the museum as an idea rather than as a building is an ever-evolving one. And that's evident here.
I mean, what you spoke about, because it's becoming, that's a lovely point. How much one should actually determine or try to structure, and how to let it be consumed in different ways over time.
Yeah.
And I think what you spoke about wonderfully was about the importance of every time and its representation and its continuity, and perhaps adding and transformation which happens, which is a fascinating architectural and space journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also reflects what we do when we hold collections, because also MAP is about the collections that are held in this building and come to life as people engage with them. So the way we think about and want to understand 17th or 18th century artworks changes with the times and debates that we're immersed in. And that's a process of continual evolution. And the things that get shown and not shown also reflects that ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
But for me, the museum's collection and its building only really come to have purpose in that engagement with the public.
And completely, yeah, it's the usage of the collection which makes it relevant. I completely agree with that, Maria. I think in some of the structuring element of the map, which will work well, because we just had the debate on digital versus original artworks, and I like the idea that there is a space dedicated to exploring through the 3D representation or the capacity to explore the depths of maybe fragile paper artwork. So dedicated space, but which is connected to the collection, is also a good way to exemplify what you were saying on the usage of the collection. How can I, but even some artworks which would be in the exhibition, like this woman plate, you can see it in 3D, so you can do in a place what you cannot do in the exhibition, which is rotating it, zooming, and making it an object of a different way of having it an object of curiosity. So I think that the balance of the spaces, the balance of the usage, which which are made possible, is also interesting. But indeed, how will it react? How will it move? This is where, because interesting. The Tate, you have your history, and now you, under your leadership, you authorize a way of re-questioning the building. We're celebrating our 5th anniversary at Louvre Abu Dhabi, so we are exactly at this moment when we are revisiting our own building. Do we do it with our architect? Do we do it sometimes ourselves on the way where the footfall are also so how does it evolve? Is it something that it is sought and strategized or welcome? Is it something which is coming as you say, a misbehavior from the visitors? But after all, if they are the main stakeholder, so we will see. I would be curious to come back in 5 years and to see what works, what doesn't work, what are the other investments that you have to do, because there is something that will only appear when you have all the footfall somewhere, and maybe there are things that will be obvious. I'm very careful of the master of the obvious. You should have known. I don't think you should have known. I think we will see, and it will depend. But if what I think we wish to the map to be a very vibrant and vivid institutions, the usage of it will transform it.